When I left the church and came out as an atheist, there were a few things in Christianity that I still believe in, or something similar to it, I believe. For me, number 33, yes doesn't mean yes during or before sex. So being an atheist taught me that yes doesn't always mean yes. No always means no, but yes doesn't always mean yes. If it's not an enthusiastic yes where the person knocks you over to do it or can't stop talking about it, that's not a yes. When you're raised in a culture that tells the majority of people on the planet that their desires or their lack of desire does not matter, that their pain is unimportant, that sometimes having the male expected sex drive in the woman is something unnatural. These are the sub-messages I grew up with. I had no positive sex discussion or consent conversations. I never learned that sex is a transaction unless enthusiastic consent takes place. And just because something is consensual does not mean the other person is enjoying it or wants to do it again. So I learned that if you're in a religion that doesn't believe that men and women own their own bodies, you can't have a healthy view of consent. It just does not compute. You cannot think that women not having control over their body does not affect how men and women see their own consent. And the sad part is, I would say half the women in church experience sexual assault by their own spouse, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it. Because if you aren't taught as a woman that your feelings, your lack of desire, or your differing libido is important, and that pain is important. The pain isn't okay, but feeling it is okay. You can't give understandable consent. And what's sad is, I think over half of the women in any church experiences at least one time in their life or daily sexual assault because the church is undereducated. Sometimes they refuse to even admit that their ideology creates these toxic, unhealthy familial dynamics. Or they joyfully create these dynamics to keep women in pain. And I'm not saying all churches. I'm saying the churches I've been to. Women's desires or lack of desire is seen as a joke, something that men just don't care about. And if the person you're doing it with isn't more excited than you are, that should be your first clue they don't want to do it. They may not have a voice to say they don't want to. They may be scared. They may actually believe they're giving consent, but their body is saying something else. And women's bodies are very complex. If a woman is in pain, there's a few reasons why. Fear, ignorance, she doesn't know how to prepare for sex, the person she's doing it with is going too fast or isn't listening to her. There are many reasons, and I'm not going to list all of them. We'd be here all night. But women's bodies sometimes use pain to convey an issue. And if a woman is in pain before, during, and after sex, there's a disconnect between the communication between a woman and her body and a woman and her partner. My mother is 70 years of age and has never heard of vaginismus or endometriosis. When you grow up in a culture that villainizes and dehumanizes sex as something that is evil, corrupt, and dirty, you cannot flip a switch and in less than 12 hours change how you see everything. I'm not going to say that trauma comes and finds every single person, but I would say half the women in church have some form of sexual trauma due to inappropriate or just under education. Just because you're married doesn't mean you have to have any sex in your marriage. I mean, aromantic and asexual people exist. How often in having sex does not mean your marriage is healthy whatsoever. The longevity of your relationship does not mean it's healthy or good for you. So when women grow up in environments, religious and secular, where they don't believe that they can say no, they might even convince themselves they're saying yes because they want it. Your body does not lie. And when women are in pain, it's usually their body telling them something is wrong. And in our society, secular and religious, we create men and women to not trust their own bodies. And I would say 1 out of 3 women who grow up in these ultra sexless environments until marriage triple their chance of some sexual dysfunction, either bodily or psychological. And it's fascinating how women in ultra-religious environments triple their chance of endometriosis and vaginismus and pelvic floor pain and panic attacks, anxiety, depression, because of the environment they were raised in, how they view their bodies, how they view their sexuality or the lack of sexuality. If you don't see yourself as anything but broken, or you have no clue what you are or what you don't like, how in the world can consent even exist for you? And that's why I'm always educating myself. And atheism taught me I don't owe any man or woman sex. I don't owe anyone anything. If I'm not more excited to have sex than my partner, it's not going to happen. And if you're one of those people that don't get excited about sex, but do once you get into it, have that conversation. But I'm not going to enter marriage thinking I have to have sex because sex is God's design or sex is something expected. Sex is not expected. Sex is not an entitlement. It's not something you owe anyone. The only thing you owe anyone is yourself. You owe it to yourself to make choices based on what makes you comfortable. And if your partner doesn't respect your boundaries after you set boundaries, you need a new partner. Or if you're more comfortable, be alone. Be by yourself. And being by yourself doesn't mean you're alone. It just means that's either what you want or it's something you're learn to love. But no, nobody deserves or is owed sex, period. This is the common misunderstanding or downright insidious agenda of purity culture. Nobody deserves or is entitled to your virginity, your body, your mind, nothing. They're not entitled to your fidelity either. Unless you've made a commitment, then honor it. And if you don't want to be faithful anymore, then split up or change the way your relationship functions. You don't have to be monogamous anymore. You can be whatever you want. As long as everyone's 18 and consenting, like, who cares? And that's why I don't trust people that care what everyone else is up to. Decent people don't care what adults consenting are doing behind closed doors. We have more important world problems to deal with. But yeah, I love atheism because it taught me that I owe nobody anything. That yes doesn't always mean yes, especially if you're in a high control, gender stereotype environment. And if you don't understand consent, it probably comes from the environment you were raised in. So, atheism set me free from the basics and the agenda of purity culture, aka rape culture. Because when a culture believes that men can't keep their hands to themselves and that men deserve sex, entitlement, they don't deserve anything. Even if you're the best partner in the world, you still don't deserve sex. Nobody is entitled to anything. Your job as a partner is to be the best version of yourself and to create an environment where within certain situations, your partner would want to have sex. That doesn't mean they have to or that they should feel like they need to. You should create a loving, safe, trusting environment where they have every reason to want to have sex. But it doesn't mean they even need to or have to. And most times when people don't want to have sex, they don't feel safe. They might be tired. They might not be attracted to you. Or you could just be a bad partner. Or there could be no reason. They just don't feel like it. And when you think people are entitled to sex, you start erasing people who don't want to have sex, who will never want sex, or maybe they want sex in a different way than what is convenient or expected. There's a reason why religious people completely erase asexual, aromantic people. If it doesn't benefit straight white men, religious people completely erase it. This is a hate crime. And it's intentional. So we need to make enthusiastic consent the agenda that's taught in every school. And you shouldn't even have to be told no. You can tell if someone's not into it. You can. It makes me uncomfortable to watch movies and television shows when somebody's not into it. It's uncomfortable. And men under... So we need to teach our next generation that enthusiastic consent is something that just can only exist in a safe, loving, trusting, mutual exclusive, consensual environment. And if your partner doesn't see you as entirely human, with your own agency, with your own desires, and your desires or lack of desire is important to them, more important than their own feelings, then this is not consensual.